You've known something about someone that you had no natural way of knowing. A specific detail, a name, a situation, information that arrived before anyone told you. And you've spent years calling it a coincidence. 1 Corinthians 12:8 calls it a gift. Paul writes that the Spirit gives to some a message of knowledge by means of the same Spirit. Not insight, not perceptiveness, a supernatural download of specific information from a source outside your own understanding. And the 10 moments we're going through today, you're going to recognize yourself in most of them, because the gift of word of knowledge doesn't announce itself. It arrives quietly. It passes itself off as a thought, and you've been receiving it for years without knowing what it was. Comment yes or no. Have you ever known something specific about a person that you had no natural way of knowing, and it turned out to be exactly right? Most people confuse this gift with intuition, and the confusion makes sense on the surface because both arrive the same way. Quietly, unannounced, as a thought that simply appears rather than a conclusion you worked your way toward. But the difference isn't in how it feels. It's in where it comes from. Intuition draws on things you've already observed, stored, and pieced together somewhere below your conscious awareness. A tone of voice you registered without noticing, a pattern you'd seen before in similar people. The word of knowledge draws on information you never had access to at all. No observation, no prior data, no natural channel your mind could have used to assemble it, even unconsciously. This is exactly why it's the most silenced gift operating in the church today. It never arrives with fireworks. There's no vision splitting the sky, no audible voice, no dramatic sensation announcing that something supernatural just happened. It arrives as a small, specific thought that feels almost too ordinary to mention out loud. A name, a detail, a fact about someone's situation. And because it feels so ordinary, most people dismiss it in the same second they receive it, before they ever consider that it might not have come from their own mind at all. The original Greek behind this gift is logos gnosis, literally a word or message of knowledge. Not a feeling, not a hunch, a specific piece of information delivered in word form about something the natural mind had no way of assembling on its own. Paul places this gift in the exact same list as healing and miracles for a reason. It belongs in the category of the supernatural, not the category of being a perceptive person, which is where most churches have quietly filed it away, if they've addressed it at all. And this matters, because if you've spent years thinking you were simply unusually observant, or that you had good instincts about people, you may have been misnaming something the Spirit was actually placing directly into your mind. The gift doesn't require you to be spiritually mature, publicly recognized, or trained in ministry. It requires only that information you had no way of gathering naturally arrived, and did not arrive by accident. So here are 10 specific moments people carry with this gift, whether they've recognized it or not. Every single one has probably already happened to you more than once. The first moment is knowing a specific detail about someone you just met, an occupation, a private struggle, even a name, before they ever told you, with no way to explain afterward how you knew it. In John 4:17-18, Jesus told the Samaritan woman at the well that she'd had 5 husbands and the man she was currently with wasn't her husband, details he had no natural way of knowing, having just arrived at that well and just met her that day. This was not intuition reading her body language. It was specific, factual information delivered directly. And this is exactly the moment most people suppress the fastest, because it feels presumptuous to say out loud, "I don't know how I know this, but I know it," sounds arrogant or invasive. So most people swallow the detail rather than risk sounding strange. You may carry this gift if you've blurted out something true about a stranger and then spent the rest of the conversation wondering where that even came from. The second is a sudden, specific certainty about what someone is going through emotionally, arriving faster than any conversation could have revealed it, before they've said a word about their pain. In John 1:47-48, Jesus told Nathanael, "I saw you under the fig tree," before Philip had ever gone to call him, a specific detail from a moment Jesus had not physically witnessed. Not a general read of Nathanael's mood, an exact location, an exact moment. People suppress this one because it often surfaces around people they don't know well, and saying, "I know exactly what you're carrying right now," to a near stranger feels like a violation of privacy rather than a gift being offered. You may carry this if you've known the specific shape of someone's private pain before they described it to you and said nothing rather than risk overstepping. The third is knowing something is physically wrong with someone before they've mentioned any symptom at all. Not a general sense of unease, but a specific location or nature of the problem. Acts 9:11-12 shows the Lord giving Ananias exact coordinates, the street called Straight, the house of Judas, the very vision Saul had already seen of a man named Ananias coming to restore his sight. Specific, verifiable information Ananias had no natural way of gathering. This one gets suppressed because naming someone's illness before a diagnosis exists can sound alarming or presumptuous. So most people who sense it choose silence over the risk of frightening someone. You may carry this gift if you've sensed exactly where in someone's body something was wrong, weeks before any doctor confirmed it. The fourth is thinking of a specific person completely out of nowhere, only to discover afterward that they needed you at that exact moment. In Acts 10, Peter received a vision at the precise hour that messengers sent by Cornelius were already traveling to find him. Timing so exact that the synchronization itself became part of the confirmation. Information arriving in perfect alignment with an event Peter had no natural way of tracking from where he stood. People suppress this one constantly because an unexplained thought of someone gets filed under random 100 times before anyone considers that one of those 100 might not have been random at all. You may carry this gift if you've had a sudden, specific thought of someone, reached out on impulse, and discovered you'd called at the exact moment they needed to hear from you. The fifth is a specific number, name, or word surfacing in your mind that later turns out to matter directly to a real, unfolding situation. In 2 Kings 6:12, Elisha is described by the king of Syria's own servant as the prophet in Israel, who tells the king of Israel the words that you speak in your bedroom. Private words, spoken behind closed doors, delivered to Elisha through no natural channel whatsoever. This one is suppressed most often because it sounds the strangest to say out loud, admitting that a random word or number popped into your head and then mattered feels closer to superstition than faith, so people quietly drop it rather than mention it to anyone. You may carry this gift if a specific word or number has surfaced in your mind for no reason, only to become significant hours or days later. Which of these have you already experienced without knowing what it was? Comment below. I'm reading every single one. The sixth is knowing the outcome of a situation before it unfolds. Not a hope, not an optimistic guess, but a specific, settled certainty about exactly how something is going to end. Acts 27:22-24 shows Paul in the middle of a violent storm that had already convinced the entire crew they were about to die, telling them plainly that not one life would be lost. Information delivered to him directly by an angel that night, not deduced from any encouraging sign in the circumstances, which at that point looked like certain disaster. People suppress this one because speaking a specific outcome out loud, especially a good one in the middle of a bad situation, invites ridicule if it doesn't happen. So most people keep the certainty private rather than risk being wrong in front of others. You may carry this gift if you've known exactly how a frightening situation was going to end, with a certainty that had nothing to do with the visible evidence. The seventh is being drawn to say something specific to a stranger, only to discover afterward that it addressed exactly what they were secretly carrying. Acts 8:29-30 records the Spirit telling Philip to go specifically toward a particular chariot on a particular road, where he found the Ethiopian eunuch reading the exact passage of Scripture he happened to have questions about at that exact moment. Not a general instruction to go share his faith with whoever he met. A specific person, a specific road, a specific timing. This one is suppressed because approaching a stranger with something specific feels socially risky. Most people who feel that pull talk themselves out of it before they ever act on it, telling themselves it's an overactive imagination. You may carry this gift if you felt pulled to say something specific to a stranger, hesitated out of self-consciousness, and later wished you hadn't stayed silent. The eighth is recognizing something false in a situation everyone else has already accepted as true, with no way to explain how you know it's false. Acts 5:3-4 shows Peter perceiving instantly that Ananias and Sapphira had lied about the price of the land they sold, information no one else in the room possessed. No investigation, no witness testimony, just direct, specific knowledge delivered to Peter alone. This one is suppressed the hardest of all 10, because calling out a specific lie you have no natural evidence for sounds accusatory. And most people who sense a lie this way say nothing rather than risk being wrong in a way they can't defend. You may carry this gift if you've known someone was lying with total certainty long before there was any proof, and chosen silence because you had no way to justify what you knew. Now, before I show you moment 9, I need to tell you something about it, because it's the one people most often overlook completely, mistaking it for something else entirely. Stay with me, because moment 9 is probably the one you've experienced the most in your entire life and named the least. The 9th is waking up, or simply pausing in the middle of an ordinary day, with a specific thought of a specific person lodged so persistently in your mind that you feel compelled to reach out, only to learn afterward that they needed exactly that contact at exactly that time. this is the quietest form the gift takes, and for that exact reason, it's the one suppressed the most completely. Not through fear of sounding strange, but through simple dismissal, because "I just thought of them" sounds too ordinary to ever question. The specificity is the signature that gets missed. Not a general drifting thought about people you love. One particular name arriving with unusual weight, at a moment that later proves to matter far more than a coincidence should. You may carry this gift if you've had this exact experience more times than you've ever bothered to count. And the 10th, the most specific and the most confirming of all, is receiving a piece of information so precise, so entirely unrelated to anything you could have naturally deduced, that the only honest explanation left is that it was given to you directly. 1 Samuel 9:15-16 shows God telling Samuel the day before Saul ever arrived in the city exactly who was coming, exactly why, and exactly what Samuel was to do about it. A specific person, a specific purpose, delivered a full day in advance of any natural way Samuel could have known. This is the moment most people finally stop calling it coincidence, because when information arrives that specific and that far ahead of any possible natural explanation, coincidence simply stops being a reasonable answer, which is exactly why it's the sign most people quietly hold onto in private, even after they've dismissed every other moment on this list out loud. You didn't find this video. This video found you. And these 10 moments aren't a list of lucky guesses you've collected over the years. They're a record of a gift the Spirit has been placing information into your mind through, over, and over, long before you ever had a name for it. 1 Timothy 4:14 says it directly. Do not neglect the gift that is in you. Not a suggestion, an instruction. If you recognize yourself in even 3 or 4 of these, that isn't coincidence repeating itself independently 10 separate times. That's one gift, confirmed again and again in different rooms with different people across different years of your life. The gift of word of knowledge is most powerful when you stop dismissing what arrives and start operating in what the Spirit gives. That transition from dismissing to operating is exactly what the 21-day guide was built for. It's called the 21-day Holy Spirit Gift Activation. 1 page per day, 1 practice per day. By day 21, you won't just recognize the gift, you'll be using it intentionally. The link is in the description. Comment below. Which of the 10 moments confirmed something you've already been experiencing? Tell me the number and what happened. I'm reading every single comment. Subscribe, because next week we're going through the gift of wisdom and how it's different from the knowledge you just recognized in yourself today. And if this video named something you've carried without a word for it, send it to the person you know who's always saying, "I just had a feeling," and doesn't realize yet what that feeling actually was.